Hello, SaaS marketers. My name's Brady Cram, and I'm the Director of Strategy over at Directive. Today, I'm going to be diving into how our strategy team thinks of the order of operations when optimizing and managing accounts. What I mean by order of operations, I'm going to be going through certain stages of account optimization and account management. And the logic here is if you don't do stage one first, you really shouldn't be focusing on stage three. Once you get to stage three, if you dive into stage six, you're still not going to get the results that you want out of your campaigns and your accounts as a whole. I'm going to be using Google Ads as an example just to make this tangible, and I'll be breaking off to different channels as well. But now that you get the gist, let's dive in. And so when thinking about these stages, stage one is all about tracking. And so when I say tracking, it's not the simple, okay, go into Google Ads, go to your conversion pixel, drop it on the thank you page of your forms, maybe split it up by, oh, this is a content download, this is a demo, this is a free trial. It's beyond that. When we're talking about perfect tracking, we're talking about OCT, we're talking about offline conversion tracking. And what that means is we need to have pipeline visibility within our accounts. A lot of people, they might say, well, we have the pipeline visibility in the pipeline, right? We're using UTMs, we can see campaigns and where things are coming from. The only problem with that is, one, if you're just managing as a person, you're having to go from platform to platform. It's really difficult to connect the dots on a granular level. Number two is we're more likely than not to opt into bidding strategies, right? So we're talking about maximize conversions with target CPA tied to it. It could be a target ROAS if you have conversion values ported in as well. And if we're doing that off of just form fills, we could be driving the account in the wrong direction. And the reason why that's the case is, especially in SaaS, sometimes our highest revenue, it comes from the highest cost per click, right? These are the clicks that all of the competition is valuing because they're tracking it through the pipeline. They're closing deals. It's worth sometimes millions of dollars a year from customers, depending on your industry. And so you're willing to bid a good amount of money for those clicks. And if you're optimizing the account just off of form fills alone, your lowest cost per form fill is probably coming from your lowest cost per click. And so with that being the case, you're really optimizing the account towards the clicks and conversions that the competition just simply isn't valuing. And so setting up OCT, getting that imported actually into the platform, creating custom columns, what's my cost per MQL? More importantly, what's my cost per SQL op and deal? From campaign to keyword levels, that's how you actually achieve performance in the account and make sure you're driving the account in the right direction as you're performing your optimizations. So that is stage one. In terms of stage two, it's all about budget pacing, right? These are some of the basics, but they're crucial, right? You don't want to be, well, depending on your environment, you don't want to be underspending, right? You might say, well, if we're only on stage two and we have a lot more to figure out, we're willing to not spend our monthly budget. And if that's okay, that might be a recommendation. But oftentimes we're in an environment where if you don't use it, you lose it. And if that's the case, you do want to really hone in on your budget pacing. You also don't want to overspend as you're, early on in an account or making a lot of changes in a live account that's been going on for a while, and those changes impacting your pacing. You could go overspend, and depending on, your work environment, that could mean a lot of different things. But more likely than not, that just means, okay, you just ate your funds for the next, the rest of the quarter, things like that. And we don't want that to happen. At Directive, we actually use a really cool tool for this called Shape. I believe it's shape.io if you want to check them out. And it really helps our team visualize budget pacing. You might have a setup where you have regional budgets, right? Maybe even product or solution budgets. And Shape allows you to then bucket those campaigns into a budget visualization tool that not only shows you how you're trending for the month without having to do the manual calculations in a platform like Google Ads, especially on a regional or product level, but it also reacts to live changes you're making in the account. So if you add new keywords, if you ramp up bids, it'll collect the data from those first few initial days, and it'll start building a trend line where your budget's heading with those changes. Or it could be pausing keywords or ramping things down. Same thing goes for that. So it'll show the trend line that, hey, with the changes you just made, you're probably not going to hit budget. So budget pacing is crucial. Next is fundamentals. And so when we say fundamentals, it might sound like the basics, but it's all crucial, right? So making sure you have the right amount of ads within your campaigns. I know best practices are changing, it seems like every month now, but definitely making sure you have a responsive ad in your Google ads. If we're looking at social platforms, making sure you have a few ads for testing and making sure they're different, but not so different that if one wins, you don't know why it won. You want to be setting up experiments in your account. You want to have a negative keyword list that you already know even before collecting data, that are terms you don't want to show up for. If you have audience building tools or even using in-platform audience tools, make sure you're observing them, make sure that's set up. If you have certain demographics and audiences that you know can't become business for you, make sure that stuff is excluded in the account, because especially Google Ads and even social platforms, targeting is hard enough as is. And so making sure you have these defense mechanisms set up is crucial. When it comes to stage 4, it's all about healthy traffic. And this one becomes hyper relevant to the next stages that I'm going to go through. And the reason why is because if you're serving the wrong people traffic to your pages, there's really no point in trying to optimize a landing page. There's really no point to collecting a retargeting list on that page because it's all the wrong people. And so spending a ton of time in search term reports, leveraging that OCT that you set up in stage 1 to start identifying, okay, where are the MQLs at least coming from, right? MQLs are still not the best indicator of success because they're so close to the form fill, and depending on your lead qualification and how you're generating MQLs. What we found within our portfolio and taking over accounts is the MQL, it can be a dangerous metric. It sounds like a performance metric, but usually when you go into the weeds, it's really not the best indicator of success. And one of the largest data points that we've really honed in on why we believe this is because across the board, whether it's a campaign level, keyword level, we see a very large variance when it comes to MQL to SQL rates. However, when you're on the SQL metric, you see pretty decent averages that you can depend on no matter where they're coming from when it comes to SQL to op to deal. So you really want to have that OCT set up first before you start identifying where your traffic is healthy and where it's not. Another reason why that's so crucial, OCT, when looking at healthy traffic, is because when it comes to SaaS and I think even B2B as a whole, Google's getting a whole lot better at delivering false positives, right? So if you're telling Google a form fill is success for you, I kind of blame ourselves because we didn't set up OCT, but what Google's going to do there is they're going to get very creative with achieving form fills for you. And so, a very extreme example of this is if you have a search campaign opted into the display network. If you dive into your actual display placements and they're generating form fills, you'll find your display ads on sites that are like application download sites. So a recent one I saw was the ADP app, and the Google ad was positioned right under the app logo in this page that's built to download the app. And the ad almost looked like it was to download, whether the call to action was actually download, if it was start, it was positioned to make the user think, cool, if I want this ADP app, I go to this page. And you would think, well, once they click and they see, we're a data warehouse solution, whatever you are, they're not going to fill out the form. We're actually finding that's not the case. If you think about the user and putting yourself in their shoes, they really trust the internet, right? They trust Google. If they're on the ADP app page and they click a button that says download, they're just going to jump to the form and they're going to fill it out thinking they're getting that app. And same thing goes for search, right? You might have terms that aren't really relevant to you, but that user is going to be on Google thinking, hey, one of these 4 top results, it's definitely what I searched, right? This is Google. This is the best search engine out there. And so they might go to your page and fill out the form thinking that they're getting whatever they searched, even though that search isn't relevant to your business. It's not a potential customer. And so the point there is, false positives. It's getting more and more dangerous as Google gets more and more sophisticated. And I really put that responsibility on us, the paid media managers, in this case, in the platforms, because we told Google our KPI is a form fill. And so that's the information we told Google. Google's then doing a brilliant job at achieving that. And that's also why OCT is a requirement when going through these logical steps with account management and account optimization. So you want to get your keywords, you want to get your traffic healthy, that might be, or definitely is under the keyword level. You want to be managing it on a search term level with the data that you have provided. We even think the overview tool in Google Ads with that kind of search term cloud, sorting by impressions, and just spending every day for maybe only 10 minutes going through that, seeing what you're showing up for. If you see something that seems a little fishy, seems a little off in terms of relevancy, click into it, see how you're performing on a pipeline level, and then remove it from the account if you find yourself not liking that term and it not resulting in performance. After that, so now that you have healthy traffic, you're really honed in on certain terms that are actually generating pipeline, you want to start taking over share of SERP. And so this is getting out of Google Ads and actually looking into those search terms that are working for you. And especially in B2B SaaS, what you'll start finding are these third-party directories, right? The Gartner directories, your Capterras, your Software Advice, your GitApps, but also your G2 Crowds, your Finances Online, your PC Mags, Trust Radius. I can go on and on and on of these third-party ad buys. And these ad buys are now dominating the first page of Google. It's very, if you're an SEO and you're listening or watching this, you're probably frustrated with what's happening in the SERP organically when it comes to your core page rankings. A few years ago, you'd probably be able to rank a core solution page for those solution-based terms, even buying intent. But now these third-party directories are dominating, but fortunately, we can position ourselves on it. And so that's what share of SERP is. And we're only allowed to do share of SERP once we figured out the traffic that's generating business in Google Ads. That's how we prioritize even the SERPs we look at, and then identify the ad buys within there and invest in them with confidence. After that is messaging. So now that you have healthy traffic, now that you're in these very relevant directories, now's a good time to focus on your messaging. And it seems a little late in the stages to focus on messaging. And I'm not saying you just put up gibberish in your ad copy and your landing pages until you get here. But this is really the time to invest in messaging. This is the time to research and really start testing. And that reason is now you actually have healthy traffic. Now you're showing up in front of the relevant buyers, your potential customers. And so if you did messaging prior to that, you could have the best messaging in the world. And if the wrong person was reading it, your data is going to be skewed. Your data is not going to be meaningful for you, right? The right message for your potential customer given to the wrong person could tank. A good example of this is we have a lot of clients who their TAM and their personas are engineers. And one of their main call to actions might be a free API key. And so let's say we had that in the ad copy before we really focus on healthy traffic. And we're like, hey, we want to test this. We think it's going to be really strong. Well, if you're showing up for all the wrong people, right? An example of that would be, we recently did an audit of an account for cloud storage security. And within those search terms, most popular ones were like unlimited cloud storage, right? These are consumers who hit their limit on their iPhone and their iCloud. Now they're trying to charge them, $9.99 for a terabyte or 2 terabytes. And they're looking for another solution for cloud storage. And we have maybe an API tied to that solution, and we're built for engineers or software developers. And we say free API key. All of those consumers are going to hate that ad. They're going to be like, what the heck is this? And they're going to avoid it. And then the data in the account is going to say, hey, this is a terrible ad. So that's just kind of connecting the dots of this logical order of operations on why you wouldn't want to focus on messaging until your targeting is healthy and you're even investing in the share of SERP strategy, taking over relevant directories for your search terms that are healthy and working really well in Google Ads. From there, you want to focus on your offer and call to action. And so this is very similar to messaging, but within that messaging exercise, you're going to be doing testing. You're really going to hone in on unique value props within that messaging. And so once you start getting wins within there, then you can start influencing your call to action. And this doesn't mean your offer or CTA needs to change necessarily, right? Maybe you still want to run your demo. Maybe you still want to run your free trial, but it really allows you to optimize the context of those call to actions. So something we don't like seeing, but it's pretty dang common, is a demo or a trial without context. It's just, hey, you know us now, you went to our site, you went to our landing page, we know what you search, you like the ad, get a demo. And usually when someone's on a platform like Google, as much as we have like our bottom of funnel searches, right, with a lot of intent and we value them a ton, cost per click is high, someone's on Google, right? That's very top of funnel in the general buying process. And so we really want to align with that user. We want to make sure if they are committing to a demo or even committing to a free trial, that they're confident in that next step. They have clarity on what they're going to be able to achieve maybe in the first 10 minutes when trying your product, what they're going to be able to ask, what they're going to be able to see when they actually commit 30 minutes to getting a demo with someone on your sales team. And that language and that testing can often be influenced by the messaging testing that you did up front, maybe in ad copy or elsewhere on the landing page. And then we focus on retargeting. And once again, it's like, whoa, retargeting stage 8, like, wow, that's pretty deep in this process. We usually set up retargeting pretty early on. It doesn't mean you don't have it at all, but I will say the pitfalls of doing retargeting too early is especially when you don't have the healthy traffic yet. As I mentioned before, if you're getting unhealthy traffic, if you're capturing these consumer pools that are pretty close to the intent that actually means something to you, you're now building retargeting lists with all the wrong people, right? Now you're serving impressions to all the wrong people, and going back to messaging of those retargeting ads, you're going to have a very difficult time honing in on the messaging and the CTA if you don't have those things figured out. And so the messaging work that you do, the CTA work that you do after the healthy traffic, it all goes into your retargeting strategy. Now you've figured out, okay, I know the terms, I know the people generating SQLs, I know the message that's optimized for it, I know the call to action that they actually want to move forward with. Now you can set up a really high performing retargeting campaign. And the pitfalls of skipping those steps and launching this, I think, are pretty clear now, right? If it's all the wrong user, if you haven't figured out your messaging and CTA, how good is your retargeting actually going to be? And now that you're confident in your retargeting, we can break outside of just talking about Google Ads. When I'm saying retargeting, it's not just a responsive display ad going to your landing page users. Now that you know the traffic, you can start building audiences in other platforms, right? Your LinkedIn's, your Facebook's for that landing page traffic from your quality search, and start retargeting in those other channels. The way we see retargeting, and I really love this perspective, is let's say your Google Ads is converting at 10% for your high quality traffic. That's a pretty dang good conversion rate, if you ask me. We like to flip that number and say, well, that means 90% of those users that we probably paid a lot of money for, and they are potential customers because of all the investments we've made in traffic, they didn't convert, right? We don't have their contact information. And that's how we like to position our retargeting. And that's how it can be looked at as such a powerful tactic or strategy if your retargeting list is actually the right user, if you figured out your messaging, if you figured out your call to action. Now you can invest in retargeting, not just in display or programmatic and other placements, but especially in social networks as well. And then stage 9, and this is the final stage, would be budget allocation. So now you have a pretty awesome build going on, and you're collecting a lot of data. And I'm sure you've done this process through multiple campaigns, maybe supporting different business units, different products, different regions. Yet you might have an overall goal, right? It might be a revenue goal. It might be a close one deal goal. It might be an SQL goal, where there could be some flexibility in certain products and where you're collecting those KPIs. So now that you have this very healthy data to work off of, you can start adjusting budget, right? And so placing campaigns and potentially an LTV CAC model, right? Seeing what campaigns are the most efficient, the most effective, looking at the impression share of those campaigns, A really cool tool that we use is looking at the top versus other data within Google Ads. So what that means is that it really segments the data out between when our ads show up at the top of the page versus the bottom. And if you look at your most effective campaigns and you look at that data, what you can do is you can take your impressions that you're achieving through that targeting that are happening at the bottom of the page, and you can then multiply it by the click-through rate at the top of the page. And that shows you, okay, if I just got more aggressive with my bids, if I just showed up more often at the top for these terms, this is how many clicks I would get. And then you obviously want to then multiply that increase in clicks by your cost per click that you're getting at the top of the page to get a realistic cost that you're going to have to put into that campaign to achieve that increase in volume. But this really gets into strategic budget allocation, all based on hitting your pipeline goals and the KPIs that not only you as a marketer, I'm sure, care about, but definitely as you're reporting higher and higher and higher in the organization, leads become less meaningful. Even MQLs become less meaningful. Potentially SQLs can become less meaningful. And so you want to always be setting yourself up for success and measuring those deeper pipeline metrics. And then I did lie, that's not the final stage. Stage 10 is then testing something new or expanding the account. Now you're in a very comfortable spot within wherever you place this focus that we're talking about, these logical order of operations within the account, to then go expand, to then go test something new, unlock a different category, and still use these exact stages when doing so. Something that we do see time and time again when taking over accounts is marketing teams just moving on too quickly, right? They tried call to actions, they tried new messaging, but they didn't figure out healthy targeting. They didn't have OCT set up. They're thinking, gosh, we're not generating pipeline from these efforts. Let's pause it, let's move on. So this is crucial to preventing that from happening. It really gives yourself the best shot possible to achieving performance from whatever this initiative is that you're using platforms like Google Ads for. If you're not using this logical order of operations, you might be moving on too quickly. There could be really great performance within that overall idea, but because you didn't take these steps, you never saw it. It got scary, costs got way too high. You're focusing on the wrong things at the wrong time, and you started ditching the efforts, right? You paused retargeting because, gosh, it just doesn't convert. People don't like the ads, and when it does convert, it's the wrong person. You stopped doing your landing page A/B testing because you just couldn't see a change in conversion rates, or you started shutting down your highest cost per click terms because even though conversion rate was pretty good, they were the highest cost per form fill, and it just didn't seem logical when really deeper down the pipeline, those could be your lowest cost per SQLs, your lowest cost per ops, and your lowest cost per deals. So I hope this was super helpful. Once again, this is what our strategy team does day in and day out. This is our logical order of operations, not only when auditing an account and just listening to the client on how other teams were managing it in the past or how in-house teams are looking at things, but definitely as we're scaling strategy and we're building and we're analyzing and we're optimizing, this is crucial to our success. So I hope you got some value from this. Please hit me up in the comments, connect with me on LinkedIn, Brady Cram, Director of Strategy over at Directive. You can DM me, you can ask me questions, we can hop on a Zoom call, and we can all help each other. So hope to talk to you soon. Bye.